Can't fight 10 o'clock in the
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah.
No.
Sometimes the numbers are in there. Hey. How are you? Pretty good, sir. Good.
Okay, gang. I know we're a little thin attendance-wise, but
Oh, yeah. That one was probably like...
let's go ahead and get started. What time is it? After. 2 minutes late. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Check. Okay, we're going to get going. I found this, I'm not much of a Facebooker, but about once a week I'll cruise through Facebook, and I found this on the news feed this morning. I don't know if this is a direct quote from Dale Carnegie, or whether it's a little bit of a paraphrase, but for those of you that don't have your glasses on, I'll read it. It isn't what you have, or who you are, or where you are, or what you are doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It's what you think about. So, I'm a big Dale Carnegie fan, and kind of thoughts are things, and think and grow rich kind of stuff. So, I'll tell you. Some of you have probably heard this story before, but I'll tell you a little story of me as it relates to this. Probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, I had just closed escrow. I double-ended this property. I don't even know if I double-ended it. Let me play a little loose with the facts. But anyway, I was a listing agent. Sold this property. It was a nice sale. This was probably 2005 or 6, so the sales price was a little higher than what we're dealing with now. It was $450,000, maybe $500,000 bucks. Got a phone call. I was driving. I'll never forget it. I'm driving to Hemet. I'm on Gilman Springs, and I get a phone call from Patty Underwood, who at the time was with Commonwealth Escrow, and said, "Lance, congratulations. We just closed escrow on 123 Main Street." So, you guys know that feeling? This was a good commission. This was a I don't know, $15,000 commission-ish, right? So you get that feeling, right? So not that I was feeling bad as I was driving. I was kind of just, normal day. I get the call. I am just happy as can be. What am I doing? My thought process changed. Happy client, a little bit of money in the bank, another closed deal. So what do you do after you get that call? What do you call? You got to call your client. So I call my seller. Mr. Seller, Lance, go bigger. Just got confirmation. Congratulations. Escrow's closed. Oh, Lance, thanks so much. Really did a good job. Couldn't help you, or couldn't ask for more. Really appreciate it. And by the way, who's my point of contact at the 1031 exchange company we're using? Okay, for those of you that know what I'm talking about, my seller just asked me,
threw up.
Who is he supposed to be dealing with at the exchange company for the 1031 that we just did on the house that just closed escrow?
That we didn't just do.
So I went from here emotionally to here, and the pit of my stomach just went, oh.
Yeah.
Right. Summer, can you undo that? Escrow is now closed. I did not do a 1031 exchange. Can I undo that closing? And we'll go back and redo it and say, oops, I screwed up. Please, let's stop everything, undo it. We're going to do a 1031 exchange. Well, I'm getting Shelly saying, yeah. Summer looks at me like, I don't know. All I can tell you is, I've never unrung that bell. I've never had an escrow close that I've undone. Maybe it can be done, but needless to say, I'm not feeling good. I go from here to here literally within 60 seconds. Nothing else has changed in my life except 2 phone calls. Right? So, I'm thinking, oh crap. Which, by the way, this was a very large gain for this client. And this was, the commission which I was receiving was a pretty decent commission, but it was not enough to cover the tax, the capital gains tax, that he would have basically realized had we not done the 1031 exchange. So I immediately call Patty Underwood, thinking the worst, thinking, how do I undo this tragedy of a closing. Can I undo it? Not confident that we can, and if we can, it's going to be a mess, and I'm feeling like an idiot, yada, yada, yada. Patty, it's Lance. Oh my God. You know what? I don't think I ever told you we were doing a 1031 on this. And the client just called me, and I know we're closed, and what can we do? He said, oh, Lance, don't worry about it. You told me everything's done. We got 1031, and we're going to do safe harbor over time. So where do I go? Emotionally, mentally, I go. This all happened within a period of 3 minutes. Feeling fine, feeling great, feeling terrible, feeling great. Okay? Welcome to real estate business. That's what this is all about for me. I had my very first broker introduced me to the book Think and Grow Rich by Dale Carnegie a long time ago. The Secret is kind of a takeoff on that. If you guys haven't read Think and Grow Rich, The Secret, I don't know who wrote The Secret. Anybody know who wrote that book? That's kind of the modern day version of it. But it basically talks about you are what you think. If you think shit, you will feel like poop.
Amen.
You think good stuff? Well, Brian's another good example. Who's gone to a
Tony
Tony
Robbins.
Robbins thing recently? I know I had a couple people here in the office. Chris went. You went, didn't you? Stephen went.
I went.
Who went?
Michael went.
Michael went. Brian went. Have you seen these guys? And for those of you that were here when they did that, did they come back with a little different attitude than when they left? And it's all really all about what you think. So, at any rate, you need to guard about this, especially in this business. We just closed up an escrow. Summer just told me this morning that we closed escrow on 16th Street, which gave me a little bit of a bump, made me feel good. But that particular transaction was done with an agent in this office, and I don't see Robin here, so we'll talk about Robin because she's not here. But this particular transaction last week was one of these for Robin. Wasn't like that for me. It was kind of like this for me. And every time I was going up and down, it was in reaction to Robin's up and down. Got to guard against that. This business will kill you if you can't keep those emotions in check. So, at any rate, you are what you think, right? Something like that. Okay. We're going to, just real quickly on phones, I think we've deployed a few phones. Who has a phone now that didn't have one a month ago? One of you, two of you. How many have we deployed company-wide, Brian?
Probably about 6.
6. Are they working?
Yes, sir.
Sweetness. All right.
Plug and play.
Invitations, plug and play. Invitation still stands. Take a look at our calendar. Same old slide from the last 6 months. Take a look at our portals. Okay, monthly sales award. I've seen at least one of you guys. For October, Mr. Stephen Amaya, who I thought I saw. There you are. Come on up here, buddy. And Wilson, who I didn't see, but he'll probably stroll in here pretty quick. Congratulations, man. So Wilson and Steve tied. Their production was close enough that we didn't use it as a tiebreaker. They were pretty close as far as their volume, so we gave out 2. And we actually, finally, for the first time in 2 years, have a top listing agent. Not quite 2 years, but it's been a long time.
Since March.
And since March, and that's the Doug Adams.
Cool.
So come on up here. So now I won't tell the office that half of the listings that they took are now on hold and have been canceled, but we're gonna take
So
it anyway.
encouraging.
At least we got some listings. You're welcome.
At least we
Congratulations.
got this for the clients who go to our office.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So hey,
Hit 'em
you know,
with
a listen, we're going to consider that a victory.
Yes, it is.
Anna reminded me that I have been failing with our monthly birthday update. Another one of those things that I just dropped the ball when Shelly transitioned back into sales. So I literally just typed birthdays up there, 5 minutes ago. Who's got a birthday in October? I know it's Danny's birthday today, right? So he's out working, taking a listing or something like that. So next month, I won't embarrass any. Oh, here, congratulations, top listing agent. So at any rate, we'll start doing a little better job of recognizing folks' birthdays and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But happy birthday for you, November birthdays. It's your birthday this month, isn't it, Dwayne? It's always your birthday.
Every month.
Yes.
Every month?
Well, no,
Who's got a November birthday? Summer.
Dwayne does have November birthday.
The real one for November?
Yeah, November 26th.
Okay.
What do you mean?
All right, well, happy birthday, guys. It's one of those little things, but, you know, I kind of let slip by the wayside. We're still, by the way, Lee Router's still free. We're doing free Lee Router closings till the end of the year for those of you that forgot about that. Close your Lee Router stuff. I didn't run any market data reports, except to tell you this. Actually, I take it back. I did run some market data reports. I just didn't put them on the PowerPoint. This is MoVal. Hopefully this is going to refresh. This is MoVal. I ran this morning. Not really much has changed. Matter of fact, not only is not much change, it's almost identical to where we were a month ago, which is still a little bit off from August, but 5% increase. But if you go back to February, which was our bottom, it's about a 17% increase in property values, or 15%, whatever that number was. I did run the MLS today, this morning. Anybody want to confirm? 140 listings in Moreno Valley active as of 8 o'clock this morning. Sound about right? Okay. Well, that is the number. At least that's the number I found. The supply and demand numbers are basically still trending. At some point, we're not going to be able to get really any lower. So I was frankly surprised. I kind of expected to see this number tick up a little bit. I'd be surprised if the November number is lower, for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm starting to see more inventory come to the market. We have our first, listing agent award presented in 5 months. And frankly, the number is getting so low, it's hard, and you can't get much below. The number that we're at right now. So I think if 4 or 5 months from now, we're going to look at October, November, and we're going to start to see this red bar start to creep back up a little bit. If for no other reason, property values are going up. Shelley and I were talking about this. We're getting more standard sales. You guys are seeing that? You seeing more standard sales stuff? The investor that Drew's writing offers on, half of the stuff that we have accepted is standard sale, right? Or even maybe more than half.
Yeah, a little bit more.
And it's kind of nice. Kind of nice. You write an offer to a bank. The asset managers and the agents seem to take too long, right? You write an offer on a short sale. For whatever reason, our experience is the short sale sellers / listing agents, there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency on getting an offer submitted, or I'll get it to you this weekend, and it just seems, I don't know, it's like, yeah, whatever, we'll get to it. We've got people that we wrote offers on a month ago that we didn't even know, we'd given up on them. We'd call them, no return or whatever, and they'll call us up and say, hey, we've decided to accept your offer. Okay, all right. But the standard sellers, and I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, the standard sales sellers and agents remind me of real sellers. You give them an offer, they're excited, they want to close escrow as quick as they can because they want to capture whatever equity they've got or move on. They seem to be responding pretty damn quick. We're actually getting, in some cases, we're getting answers the same day. Remember when we used to write an offer and you call the listing agent and say, hey, I'll meet you up at the house at 6:30, does that work? And we go up and do that, and you'd write an offer at 3, you'd present it at 6, and you maybe do a counter offer at 9 p.m., and you go back and get it signed at 10, and within an 8-hour window, it'd all be done. You open escrow the next morning. That's how it used to be, guys. So at any rate, I'm kind of excited with the standard sellers. We'll see what's happening. This is the MoVal number I ran on. I think well, actually, yeah, I do still have it up. I don't think this is still active, but yeah, this is, I just searched MoVal active this morning, 2 hours ago, 140 properties. So we'll see. Doesn't look like that's increasing. Our office inventory is increasing, I can tell you that. Not significantly, but it's increasing enough that it's noticeable. So that's what we got for some market data. I do have, what did I do with that newspaper? Drew, do me a favor, go grab that newspaper off my desk. Anybody catch the Riverside Press Enterprise this morning? No one?
Didn't open it, just brought it in the house.
Okay, let me just cruise past this stuff. There's an article this morning which, front page of the business section basically talks about, for the most part, what we already know. Sales up, and prices up, right? The data quick numbers came out, and again, we can debate what they're comparing sales up from one month to the next, or one quarter to the next, or 1 year to the next. But the thing that I thought was kind of interesting, again, this, if I take off our real estate hat for a minute, and let's put our consumer hat on for a second. Let's just pretend we are a buyer or a seller and we're interested in what's going on in the real estate market. Because we could challenge these facts or look at them a different way. But this is what our buyers and sellers are reading. Home sales prices jump. By the way, there's a picture of a couple banker signs in the yard. If you look real hard, it's Armstrong's, but yeah, what the heck. But yeah, just exactly, don't look real hard. And yada yada yada, Data Quick guy says this, says that. You guys know I have my man crush on Chris Thornburg. Chris Thornburg is quoted in here, which by the way, Chris is doing a economic, Anna, where's Anna? When's he doing that thing? That economic update? Next month? November or December, whatever? Well, in a couple, 3 weeks, if you want to see it live, it's not cheap, it's $100. But Chris Thornburg is doing his Inland Empire economic deal over in Ontario. I'm going to go, so if you don't want to spend the money, I'll bring the information back and we'll talk about it at our sales meeting in December.
What about his jobs figures?
What's that?
What about his jobs figures? Remember there's
Well, his jobs his jobs figures are wrong compared to what he said a year ago. But they're, at least his trend was right.
It's not a crystal ball.
Right. Although
I thought he did.
He had job.
I believed he did.
I can't say that word. He had job figures down below 7%,
Yeah.
or maybe even below.
It was
below
like
sevens.
recovery.
Significantly low. Well, but having said that, there's the bingo word. Okay, Chris, what does Chris say? Yada yada yada. Foreclosures are down. There is no second wave. Inventories are tightening. Building permits still relatively weak. Relative population growth. Lack of inventory. Are you ready? And here's the takeaway. This is Chris Thornburg. You're going to see California come roaring back.
I'm ready.
Can you hear me
So
now?
now, whether you think Chris is a genius or not, or whether you subscribe to him or not, just to put his comments in context, Chris was the guy in 2005 when we were all going crazy and drinking the Kool-Aid and everything was great, that said everything is not great, the party is over, you guys just don't realize it yet, and he pretty much called the day and the time when things were going to happen, and has been pretty darn, although Brian's right to point out his unemployment number forecast didn't seem so great a year ago. But this is the same guy that in effect said 7 years ago, predicted everything that's happened. And now here he is, and this isn't the first time he said this, by the way. He's actually been pretty bullish on recovery for most of this year. I saw him speak at Raincross Square, or what do we call that place? They're remodeling it? Whatever, the Convention Center in Riverside. About 6-7 months ago, and he basically said the same thing. So, California come roaring back. So
That's true.
prices are up, guys. Prices are up, inventory's down, confidence is there, the buyers still seem to be there. Has anybody seen any deterioration in their buyers? This is a loaded question, but are you seeing your buyers just get disappointed and say I don't want to buy? But you still have buyers that are like, but they still want to buy. Their disappointment basically is they're just frustrated, but they still want to buy.
Some can't buy anymore.
Prices?
Yep.
Yeah, and we're going to see that. We're definitely going to see, as prices go up.
We see the investors kind of starting to drop out.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. I'm excited. I've been saying for a long time, although I got to tell you, I was wrong. I really, really thought that the fourth quarter, I mean, we're basically now halfway through the fourth quarter. I really thought the fourth quarter of this year was going to be absolutely terrible. I mean, I was terrified looking at the numbers in August and September for what I thought October, November, December was going to hold. You know what? It certainly wasn't as bad as I thought. Still a little frustrating for those of us that are, again, trying to get more buyers in escrow. But the sales are there, things are holding up. Again, obviously it's the same inventory problems. So, and anyway, get a copy of this paper and drag it around with you. Okay, I want to spend some time going through Sky Slope. And I don't know if we'll do 5 minutes or whether we'll do 35 minutes. I'll kind of leave that to you guys. But just a couple things I wanted to share with you. Anna's got some training scheduled for...
Monday at 10.
Okay, we got training scheduled Monday at 10. What are we doing, webinar? You gonna get the link out or whatever? I think what we'll do is we'll get everybody the link. If you want to just log in remotely from wherever you're at, you can do that from home or from your office or whatever. We'll also do it in the conference room. So if you just want to, get 2 or 3 or 20 of us in the conference room sitting around, that way you don't have to worry about configuring it and setting up your webinar and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Because I hate it when you have 30 people that are all remote, because there's always 5 of them who don't know how to put their phone on mute and all the rest of that garbage.
We'll talk about it.
But anyway, we're going to do some training on Monday. We're probably going to do, depending upon the interest that you guys have, we'll probably do just like a once-a-week standing training for SkySlope, and you can just kind of bug in whenever you want and just check it. So we'll talk to Ryan about that, and maybe once a week for the next month or whatever, and we'll just kind of keep it open form and free-flowing, so that if you sat in one, you're not going to have to sit back and listen how to input a new transaction all over again. Just a couple of quick things I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm logged in as on the admin side. And this is live, so couple 3 things, and let's just open this up for some dialogue, or tell me if you're having challenges. What I've noticed is a fair number of incomplete transactions, and what incomplete basically means is you have started opening a transaction or a listing, but you did not finish. It has nothing to do with the checklist, it has nothing to do with uploading forms. You have to fill out those tabs. Transaction, the contact information, so on and so forth. You just didn't finish, for whatever reason, you didn't finish putting that information in. So if you're having trouble with that, I would think there's one of a couple reasons. You either didn't have all the information you needed, so you had to stop. Or maybe I think Jim had some connectivity problems.
I did too.
No, I connected fine. I just was filling out those tabs and it wouldn't save it.
Right.
And
Who's having that type of problem, like browser problems, where you're on your Safari? Anybody else using a Mac or Safari, a web browser, having trouble?
I'm using Explorer.
Oh, I thought you said you were having trouble on Mac.
That one and, the Mac I use Foxfire.
Oh. Okay. What I've noticed is on my laptop, don't ask me why, I use Internet Explorer. At my home
Right.
computer, I use Google Chrome.
Right.
I don't have any problems using Google Chrome. So maybe, and I haven't had a lot of problems using Explorer.
All
I don't even
weekend
know what
long
version of
it
Explorer
was.
I'm using. But anybody other than a couple of hands having those type of problems where your browser's just kicking you out?
All weekend long it was having problems with Internet Explorer. I finally gave up.
Okay.
Does it work with Chrome? I mean, I don't know a lot of the stuff that I do on.
Yeah, actually, I
But some things won't work
use
on
Chrome at home, and I have literally had no problems with that. Matter of fact, some of the pop-up issues and the way the windows nest on top of each other, I've been a little frustrated with Explorer. With Chrome, it just seems to be a little cleaner. So,
and
Right. That's what we were talking about.
okay. And I think that might be part of the browser. Well, actually, along those lines, has anybody used the help desk?
No.
Okay, let's this is live, guys, so this could go horribly wrong, or this could go beautifully right. Up at the top, actually last time I did this I did it wrong. How do I get to support? The home page?
Scream.
Yeah, I know, but last time I did it, that's not what I wanted. Is there somewhere on here that says support? I guess it is up top. Support. And request support. Submit your request. No, this isn't what I want. Where's the pop-up? Where's the one that pops
That's how
up?
you do it, and they're really quick.
Is this how I do it though? I thought there was a... No, because they've already got my email address. There's another spot to do this. Who's done this? Who's a couple, 3 of you have logged on for support? There's a dialog box. There's a dialog box somewhere to do this.
Live chat. Right there.
Oh,
Down.
live chat. There we go. Live chat. Okay. So you click the live chat button. I guess you do have to put your email in. I thought it kind of recognized who I was. And ask a question. What
Browser
internet browser
is the best.
do you recommend? Now, last couple times I've done this, they've literally replied back within 20 seconds. So Jessica says hello, and let's see what she says. I don't know. It is pretty funny though, because they've had some pictures of some of their other tech people that have, and they've got some really good. This company I think is run by a bunch of young 20-somethings, because the concept of having a guy with this, like my Facebook picture with a tie, all my hair combed and all the rest of that with a nice background, that's out. This gal's got her horn shot up. Other guy, I literally think he had a hot dog in his mouth. So, here at the office we all use Google Chrome and recommend that browser. So that appears to be consistent with my experience. I've used Google Chrome at home, had no problems.
Chrome is the most stable of all the browsers. The only problem is for you guys specific with real estate. Internet Explorer is required for several real estate related websites, which is incredibly frustrating because most of you guys, when you call me and say your computer's been infected with something, 9 times out of 10, the person using it primarily uses Internet Explorer, and that's not a coincidence.
Right.
Internet Explorer is very insecure compared to Chrome.
Right, and I don't know, and again, I'm going to show my own technical ineptness. I've had challenges with the pop-ups. I'm loaded, pulling up a lot of documents, looking at what you guys do. I don't have those problems in Chrome. For some reason, they just nest better. So, just another quick thing. Have you ever used the call feature? Okay, well, because I honestly, who likes this? I personally hate this. I hate doing this chat stuff. Okay, you guys like that? I'd rather talk to somebody. I just don't like it. Having said that, check this out. Is anybody called?
I think you don't like this, you don't use it. It's nice.
No, I've used it a lot. Okay, now let's suppose I'm frustrated and I say call me on my phone. It's going to tell me put in my number. 313-2167. And check this out. This is what's going to happen. They're actually going to, see if I can get this on my speaker. My phone's going to ring. This is not them, actually. Hello, it's Lance. Connected me to Jessica. Pretty badass, huh? And
hello, and thank you for calling SkyFlow, the leading transaction management platform in the real estate industry. If you know your party's extension, you may dial
by the
it at any
way,
time.
in theory,
For sales,
they are doing this 24/7. So you could, in theory, be talking to them at midnight or doing the chat. I have noticed that the call button doesn't stay up all the time. Apparently, they have 4 or 5 live chat that will talk to you on the phone. So if you're requesting help and it doesn't say down here, I already clicked on it, but if it doesn't say call me, that just basically means you can still type in there, Jessica, please call me. I want to talk to you on the phone, and then she'll call you. See how long it takes for Jessica to pick up. But at any rate, so there is your tech support stuff. Has anybody tried to call it after hours, goofy stuff? No? Nobody? Only 2 or 3 of you have actually used the support? Okay. Okay. Just another couple quick things then on the transactions. If you do have an incomplete transaction, and the ones I've noticed that have kind of got my attention, and they've just been incomplete for a long time. Okay, I would expect if you filled something out and you were having a challenge with it, we're in the whole queue still.
It's a menu.
Oh, is that what they're doing? Oh well, anyway, I'm gonna hang up. So I've done this every time in live training. It's worked perfect. They've always responded really quick, and they've called and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So hopefully your experience will be the same. But anyway, if you are having some trouble with the incomplete stuff, you're probably going to start getting phone calls from Anna or me or an email that says, hey, you know, Medi, is there a problem with West Hayes? Can we help you out? And if you can. Otherwise, at least get it. And keep in mind, when we say your transaction is incomplete, it has nothing to do with loading documents. Okay? We're not calling you saying you haven't uploaded all your documents. We're just basically saying you haven't set it up yet. Okay?
I got, I input something one day, and the
Yep.
very next day, it told me expired.
Yeah, that's perfect. I couldn't have paid you to come up with a better. Okay, let's take a look at some expires. Let's see if we can find, and keep in mind, some of the language that SkySlope uses doesn't necessarily translate into day-to-day language that we would normally use. When I hear expired, what I think, my listing is expired, okay? In the transaction side, this looks like we don't have any that are expired. Let's double check here. On the transaction side, when it says expired, what that's telling you is that your close of escrow date is passed, okay? So all you need to do is change your close of escrow date and see if we actually have one.
So I know why it didn't happen, because I put it in stay after I closed.
Okay. It might be. Actually, it is. It's SkySlope, so let's just see how good she is. Hello, this is Lance. Hello, this is Lance.
You okay?
Hi, Lance. This is Jessica calling from SkySlope. I saw there was a call me request on the live chat we were hearing.
Hey, Jessica. Actually, I'm doing some live training, and I was just testing how good you guys are with your trainings.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I wanted to make sure that, you were able to get through and whatnot. So I'm glad I did that straight for you then.
You did a great job. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
Guys, I don't know how you get any better than that. I mean, I got to tell you, that's better than us calling our lead router clients back. Is that a little too close to home? Huh? Okay, so let's take Diane's transaction and let's modify this, and we're going to show you how this comes up expired. Diane has a close of escrow date of, now Diane filled this out. You did this, or whoever doing this for you did it.
I did.
Has a close of escrow date of February 28th, 2013. Let's pretend for a moment that when she put this in, she put in, was supposed to close on Monday. And next, and what property was this? Gabriel?
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you go to your list,
And this was the one that I was having problems trying to get stuff to upload.
okay. Okay, so there it is. Now it should show expired. Oops, I gotta click search. I'm still learning myself, guys, so. It should show expired. So this, what shows on my side is the same thing what you're seeing. So when you see status expired, nothing to do with the listing date, everything to do with your, what it should say is you passed your close of escrow date, whatever we call that, okay? Now I believe you guys all can fix this. So when you, and I would love for you to fix this, okay? This program serves a whole bunch of purposes. Number one, it helps me communicate with you guys and figure out what you're doing. But one of the things that we're terrible about in this office are sales reports. And for those of you that are great at doing sales reports, or have been great at doing sales reports, one thing that we have been terrible about is if the sales report said November 10th is a closing date, even though you told us that 2 months ago, now it's November 14th. For the most part, none of you have come to Anna or me or the manager and said, oh, by the way, my November 10th closing has been kicked out for 2 weeks, okay? Now, if you want your SkySlope to look good and you want to make Anna happy and me happy, you don't have to call us, you don't have to let us know anything. Just go back into Gabriel, change your date. And that way you'll be able to, what was the date? 23rd? 13th? Okay, just change the date. And now, not only have you updated yourself, so when you're looking at your own stuff, you'll know. You frankly, without even realizing it, you've updated me and Anna and everybody on our side, which makes us happy. Because now we're not looking at what we thought were 8 escrows that were supposed to close a month ago. Which, by the way, that's exactly what we're looking at. If I looked at our open escrow report today, there's probably at least 20 escrows that are open in the office, but according to our information, they were all supposed to close a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And that's why we're always chasing you guys down and saying, would you please tell us, you know? And I know that's annoying. I'm sure it's frustrating when Shelley was doing it. I know I kind of get those looks from you guys when I come by and say, hey, could you give this to me? If you just update it in SkySlope, you'll never hear from us again. And
promise.
you'll be able to take a look. Now again, this is everybody, but let's just pretend these were all Meddy's deals and she had 8 escrows open. You can really quickly just take a look right over here as to what you have closing and what your dates are. You can prioritize things accordingly on when you're going to close. Cool? Nice. Okay, one thing I wanted to do, and I'm not seeing a lot of hands, so I'm going to assume you guys have got this nailed. Who opened up a transaction in the last 4 or 5 days. Actually, Debbie, I know you did. Let's use yours as an example. Did you just do Rio Grande?
Yes.
Okay, this is Debbie's deal. I want to basically review the checklist. Diane came in today, gave me some feedback about the checklist, and you guys are probably tired of hearing about the checklist, but I want to take a moment and go through the checklist and get some feedback from you, good, bad, or otherwise. For full disclosure, I did the checklist. I like the checklist. Certainly not perfect, and my feelings won't be hurt if you tell me to reorder it or change it or whatever it happens to be. So let's go through it and let's have a little bit of dialogue here. By the way, if you guys now go and log into SkySlope, 10 minutes after this meeting, and your checklist looks different than this checklist, that's only because you're working on an older transaction. You opened the transaction a week ago. Every time we modify the checklist, it does not impact the checklist that you're currently working on. So every new transaction that you open will now look like this. Hopefully you like this better than what you saw 2 weeks ago. Diane does not like this better, so we're going to hear some input on this. Okay, we've taken the RPA and we've taken the BIA and we've combined them. Make sense? They print out together, make sense together,
Good.
one less item on the checklist. The PPA, by the way, we are making that required. I'm thinking about just making that, if applicable, because not everybody's using the PPA. I put it up there because if you're going to use a PPA, you're going to... Excuse me, the PAA. If you're going to use the Perfect Purchase Agreement Addendum, the PAA, you're going to probably do it, and it should be somewhere near the contract, so we've lumped them together. Make sense? Makes sense. Counter offers, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We said that's kind of silly, just 4 extra items on the checklist.
Yeah.
We've lumped them all together. You can upload, if you have 4 counter offers, you can lump them all into counter offers all. Okay? If you don't have a counter offer, by the way, we have made counter offers a required field. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Debbie, I'm not going to use your transaction.
Vince, let me ask you a quick question.
Yes, sir.
If you're trying to input a new transaction and it keeps saying incomplete,
Yep.
then I'm assuming you're not going to get a checklist yet, right?
Yeah, you cannot get a checklist at all until you've completed the so if you're having a problem getting it loaded,
Yeah,
you need to
I've
get past.
been working on one for 4 days and can't get it in.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the guy that Anna called Shelley and says, okay, I was able to input it, but I noticed that it was up there on your list and it still shows incomplete.
Incomplete. Did we kill one? Anna,
I think Shelley talked to
did we
Ryan.
do it? Did we put it in twice?
No.
We'll take a look.
I'll talk to Ryan.
But you're right. You will not get the checklist until you get the thing completed. Okay, I'm going to stick with Debbie's and just trust me that I'll tell you what's required and what's not. Now, if there are no counter offers and you see a required thing here, just type over here. Just type a note. No counter. Okay. That will send a message to the admin. The admin will then come over and take it off your list. And by the way, if it says if applicable, don't worry about it. It's if applicable. Okay? Now, if you do have a contingency rule, you can go ahead and load it. That's perfectly fine, but if you don't worry about it. It's not on the checklist. So if it says if applicable and there's no notes, I'm never going to bug you for contingency removal form. All right? Or again, if it says required, but you didn't have any counters, just type in no counter. And then we'll change it to if applicable and it'll go away. Okay, next one, addendums all. Again, to me, this all kind of flows with contract stuff. That's why they're all together at the top of the list. The WPA, again, to me, that's kind of a contract thing. It's normally somewhere on page 2 of that. This has been caused a little confusion with a few folks. I noticed Debbie actually did both. That kind of surprises me. You're going to normally have one or the other. I did this presentation in Claremont, Covina yesterday, and Redlands on Monday, and I was surprised. All the agents had no idea what a QS was. Okay? It doesn't really surprise me because it's relatively new. So if you haven't done a lot of business in the last 12 months, you might be pleasantly surprised to realize the seller's affidavit and on-form says what's wrong with using that form. Why do we hate using that form?
Social Security.
Because it has the seller's social. Sellers don't want to get, Brian just got identity thefted this week. Sellers are leery about giving their social, and then we just give it to some agent, give it to Stephen Amaya. God knows what he's going to do with it. So you got a lot of personal information floating around, and that scares us. One of the reasons I like SkySlope is because we've had files stacked up under people's desks, on floors, on desks. What's in those files? Personal information. Well, not anymore. We got it locked up tight. So to that point, if you're going to go old school and you're going to do what we've done for years, you're going to go ahead and you're going to fill out the seller's affidavit. If you're like me, and you're like, or you have a seller that says, I don't want to do this, you're going to use the qualified substitute for the seller's affidavit. And that basically means you're going to talk to your escrow officer, right? And you're going to say, who is the qualified substitute, by the way? Escrow officer. And you're going to say, would you please handle this for me? And you're going to get a form which is called the qualified substitute form, and that is going to do exactly what it says. It's going to substitute for the seller's affidavit. So you don't have to do both. As a matter of fact, and Debbie did both, but on this particular file.
When I uploaded, because I did not know what the QS was.
Right.
But Summer had the buyer sign a
Right.
buyer's affidavit.
Yep.
And that's what I uploaded. So I have one for seller, one for buyer.
And that's fine, but the QS basically takes that out of your guys' hands. You don't have to mess with it. And Summer's basically going to prepare the form that says we have it on file and the proper documentation has been substituted.
Buyer's affidavit would go down for.
Correct. And it should, and frankly, now that you mention it, it should be down farther. If it's not, we're gonna add it to the list, which is why we need to have these meetings. We might have missed one. Yeah.
Here on the listing side, I have a hardest time doing a buyer's affidavit. Do I need one?
We've totally changed the listing side. When we get done with this, we're going to look at the listing checklist. We've changed the listing checklist completely. Okay, so we've got these. Contingency removal if you need it. I've discovered that most of us in this office don't use contingency removal at all. Let me ask you a quick question. Shelley and I are in escrow. Her buyer is not performed. Can I just cancel willy-nilly?
No.
I should have probably some contingency removal requests, and I probably should also have a request to perform. Right? Contract says I can't just cancel. I've got to. Do I have my contingency rules? And have I sent in my request to perform? Okay. I don't see a lot of requests to perform, and I don't see a lot of contingency removals.
Or the buyer backs out on the 30th day of a 35-day escrow.
Yep.
And you haven't done a contingency removal, and then your seller's moved out, and
Yep.
they want the deposit, and you can't find it.
Yep. So again, it's if applicable, but I'm just planting the seed. You probably should start, and again, when does this become a problem? It becomes a problem when you got a buyer and seller that are mad at each other and want to litigate. Right? For example, let's go to the next one. We've got an extension of time. With the exception of the REO properties, for the most part, and there's exceptions, people in this office do not use the extension of time. The only people that are really using it are the REO guys because the asset managers will not do nothing. Will not do nothing. Great English.
Good job.
You can't get past the close of escrow date without it. Robin and I are a perfect example. Robin and I have a contractual close of escrow date that passed. It was last Friday. We have a seller. Where'd you go, Robin?
She's hiding.
We have a seller who's upset. We have no extension of time, and we closed escrow this morning. Probably should have got that. Probably should have got that. Don't have it. So anyway, it's if applicable. Notice of buyer to perform if applicable. Escrow instructions, earnest money deposit. All of the earnest money stuff is required. You need to give me some indication. Let me bring this up so you can see a little bit better. So, it's so far, there's really nothing that we've added to this checklist that wasn't already on the checklist. So, we want a copy of escrow instructions, we need a copy of the earnest money deposit. If you're not representing the buyer, okay, you're not representing the buyer, I'm not going to hold you up for that. However, if you have a copy of the earnest money deposit, and you're the listing agent, put it on there. If you don't have it, just put a note in there, representing seller. Don't have a copy of it. They sent it directly to escrow. Escrow never sent me. Now, having said that, if escrow, I'm the listing agent, Shelley's the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
I never saw the deposit. She said they wired it straight into escrow. Am I normally going to get a receipt for that deposit?
Yes.
Normally I am, as the listing agent, to prove that I got the deposit. If you get it, put it in the file, and then put it in the receipt box. Okay? If it's not required, or if you don't feel it's required for whatever reason, just put me a note. And this is what Debbie did. This is required. Trust log entry. Not required for the listing side. Are we normally going to get a copy of the trust log entry on the buyer side from RE/MAX when we're the listing agent or Coldwell Banker? No. put me in a note, we take care of it. Copy the prelim, copy the approval. I have purposely kept those apart because what I've been noticing is we have this together before, but normally you don't necessarily get the approval of the prelim at the same time you get the prelim. By the way, let me ask you a question. Again, we're mixing SkySlope with best practices. When do we normally get the buyer's signature approving the prelim? After close of escrow. Summer sends you the closing statement, there's a prelim with buyer acknowledge the prelim. Probably not the best practice. Okay, so this might be something that kind of helps guide some of our newer and older agents that says, seller had 17 days to get them reports, including prelim, by default. Buyer has how many days to approve or disapprove? 5. So, you know, that might be something that you might want to take a look at on day 23 or 24 as opposed to day 60 in your escrow. And especially if you're representing the buyer. I've had this happen a dozen times. It's when buyer sees the prelim for the very first time when they go in to sign loan documents and do their stuff. They finally read the prelim for the very first, which by the way, when are we going to close escrow?
Okay.
2 days later, 3 days later. They look at the prelim and then they discover something on the Melrose or something on there they didn't like. So at any rate, those are required. We're doing them completely separate. Commission authorization, I've broken that out. I'm thinking about putting that just back in with the escrow instructions. I don't know how you guys feel about that. One less item on the checklist. But at any rate, commission instruction. I did have one agent, which I thought was kind of cute. They'll remain nameless, that told me that the final HUD was not required. Okay, does everybody understand what the HUD 1, that's your closing statement. That's when you get paid. So if you're telling me your HUD 1's not required, we're canceling escrow, what are we doing here? So, anyway, we leave that for the end. I've thrown this in, I was strong-armed to put this onto the checklist. If you just want a miscellaneous throw to put some escrow stuff in there, go ahead and throw it in there. I don't really care if you put it in there. Keep in mind, everything that you're going to put on here is also going to be in the document side, right? So if you have some extra stuff that escrow is sent over to you, you can just put it over here on the Documents tab. It doesn't necessarily, if there's not a spot for it on the checklist, let's just pretend that escrow sent us over a release for the tax lien that the seller had on the property. We don't have an item on the checklist for the tax lien release for the seller. Okay? Is it still something you want to have in the file? Yeah. So you just load it into the document side, just leave it over there. And you can just title it. IRS tax lien release for seller. Leave it there. If we need to reference it later, it's sitting in the file. Not necessarily on the checklist. Rose.
What about amendments to escrow instructions, like, you know, moving the closing date forward or anything?
Amendment to escrow?
So that would be.
That was where you, that'd be a perfect example. An amendment, some sort of a change.
Yeah, but my question is, do you put it with the escrow instructions or do you put it on the other?
I don't care.
Maybe that's a little more.
I don't care. You can put it in either one of those spots.
That would be a good place to put like home warranty information.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bunch of miscellaneous stuff. Now, by the way, is this the first time that somebody of you seen the new checklist? Okay, for a few, this is the first time. Okay. So far, so good? Okay. Well, let me go back up before we finish it. The top half of the checklist is what we have kind of deemed contractual items and escrow items. So everything under documentation is basically 1 through 19. And again, there's only a couple items on here that are different from the existing checklist. So if you're wondering, well, it changed so dramatically. Well, it really hasn't. It's basically the same checklist that we had before. So the bottom half, or the middle section I should say, is the disclosure stuff. Now, this could be a little confusing, which is why I want to take a moment. We've broken the disclosures down in 2 sections. We've kind of identified, there might be an argument, Lance, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm with you, but stick with me for a minute. We've broken it down in 2 sections. Disclosures that the seller originates. These would normally be disclosures that you would take at the time you sat down and took a listing. Or disclosures that in the contract, it says the seller is to provide the following disclosure. So when we say, that doesn't mean that the buyer is not signing these. We've identified them with seller up front, so to kind of give you the mental picture, this is what we want the seller should be providing to the client. The obvious one, transfer disclosure, SPQ, natural hazard disclosure report. We've flipped these out. What I have noticed for a lot of people, you're loading the report, but you're not loading the actual signature that they've acknowledged the report. So we've got 2 of those. Lead-based paint, pretty straightforward. Smoke detector water heater. Carbon monoxide, I think in April they're going to merge smoke detector, water heater, carbon monoxide together, but for now it's separate. Statewide buyer's advisory, termite report and clearance, and the earthquake booklet receipt. I don't want the booklet. Okay, please don't upload the 50-page booklet. Just a little receipt that says that they've received a copy of it. So these are basically what I've kind of deemed seller, and somewhere in the contract it says the seller is to provide these items. Okay, whether the disclosures happen to be. Now another thing along these lines, please don't upload partially executed items to the checklist.
Yeah, that was me yesterday.
If you have a transfer disclosure that's signed by the seller, I know you're excited, you want to put something on the checklist. Don't load it to the checklist until the buyer has signed it. Just keep it on the document side. Just leave it over there.
You're gonna get
Once you get it signed by the buyer, then you're going to upload it to the checklist. Okay, so the first half is what we've just deemed seller's disclosures. Again, this has been a little confusing, so hopefully it'll shed a little bit of light on this. The bottom half we've identified as broker disclosures, meaning that in most cases you are the broker, by the way, the broker agent, are generating these disclosures as part of your transaction. Agency, okay? You notice it doesn't have an AD1. AD1 is normally done on the listing side. We're on the buying side of the transaction. So your AD2 would normally be the buyer's agency. The AD3 would be the combination thereof, okay? Agent's visual inspection, who's generating that? We are. We're doing that. That's why it says, that's why it's in the broker section. Buyer's inspection, election, and again, I have mixed feelings about these, but we're generating that on behalf of the buyer, of course. And this is there's been some confusion with this. This is the form that basically says, I'm going to get a home inspection, I'm not going to get a septic inspection. It's got, how many are on there, like 100? Yeah, like a whole bunch of things on here. And the waiver. If you have the waiver, you don't need the inspection. Just say, hey, I did the waiver. They're not getting any inspections. Are we getting these on every transaction?
Yes.
Let me speak for the office. No, we're not. Traditionally, we've had a lot of, we just haven't gotten those. I get it. I'm not even sure. Was it required, Shelley? Was it required on another form?
Yes.
On the checklist? It was required on the form?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's a good idea to get one. The authorization to represent more than one buyer or seller, we really need to get that.
Yep.
In any market, but specifically in this market. I mean, it's just good practice. The HID, I put if applicable. Does everybody know when that's applicable?
FHA.
FHA. If you're doing an FHA transaction, I don't care who you're representing.
Is that the general inspection?
Is that the what?
For your protection.
For your protection, get the home inspection. Yeah. And just as a general rule, I don't know if any of you have ran into this, the HID has to be signed and has to have the same date as the purchase contract.
Yeah, I bet.
Okay? So if you forgot to get your HID and then you have the buyer sign it and the date is a later date than the purchase contract and then you send that into ABC Mortgage through your loan, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They say, oops, which means what?
Why would you send the HID with your contract to the mortgage company?
You've got, who's doing an FHA loan? You got to have it.
I've never had
Nope.
anybody.
Nope. Because they usually do them when they take the loan application out.
It's required. It's required.
But they have their own.
Maybe Shelley's gotten lucky. I think we've probably done a few and they've gotten lucky. But I know we've had, because we have one. We had one in the transaction that Drew and I did a year ago.
They've never
and
asked
we didn't
me.
have it, and the lender was like, you know, what do we do? And I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to backdate it. And they're flipping out. You know, they're like, wait a minute. I think honestly what's happening in most cases is the loan officer realizes it's missing, is preparing it, and having the buyer sign it and backdate it.
Right.
Okay? But it is required if you're doing an FHA deal. So if you're on the listing side and you know you've got an FHA acceptance, you might want to, again, save yourself. Part of the nice part about being in this business for a long time is you learn by your mistakes. Okay? This would be a mistake that you could avoid. You could turn to the buyer's agent right away and say, hey, I noticed you didn't send over an HID. Would you please do that and make sure it's dated the same, because I had a problem 2 years ago where this messed up a deal, and if you deal with it now, maybe we'll avoid that problem. But anyway, if applicable. Market conditions, I don't think there's any more, I mean, the last 7 years, this has been a good idea, but this market is a really good idea. Specifically dealing with sellers, my concern today is that we're going to go out and we're going to sell a house. It's going to close escrow, and the seller's going to be pissed 3 months from now because of what happened. Potentially values have gone up, you sold it too quick, you double-ended it, you didn't care about me, and all you want to do is get a quick commission. And would it be really nice to have one of these forms signed by the seller? Which basically, someone said the other day, I never heard her describe this, this is basically your weather report. I don't know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Don't hold me accountable if it rains or snows or whatever it happens to be. So we want that. Final verification, that's your walkthrough. To be honest with you, we've been really lax about the affiliated business services. If you're using escrow, you got to have it. Okay. If you're not, or you're not using REO Asset or whatever it happens to be, just give me a note in here that says we didn't use any. I'll be okay with that. Part of me says just have them sign it anyway. And then we've got the, if applicable, occasionally someone fills out this cooperating broker compensation. Okay, that's it. That is the checklist. Now, if you go down a little further, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, I'm not going to really spend any time on it. We've got another 20 items down here. None of these are required. You don't even have to look at them. You don't even have to touch them.
Don't scare yourself.
Okay? Use them if you want. If you have a roof cert, upload a roof cert. If you don't worry about it. Okay? So you don't have to worry about anything at the bottom at all. Just use it if you will. If you do have a roof cert and you don't feel like loading it onto this section, that's fine. Just put it in the document center. Just label it roof cert. So everything from here down, and it doesn't have a box. It doesn't say required or if applicable. Don't have to worry about it. The only thing that we really need to look at are the first two sections.
So,
Yep. Give it to me.
so you're not gonna make a home inspection report or septic cert required. Obviously, septic is not required on every transaction, and a home inspection report is not always done.
Right.
But,
It's a great question. Keep going.
but you need to have that on hand. I mean, if you have a problem, so it's not like just if you feel like loading it, load it.
No. Okay, let me.
No, if you
Great
have
question.
it.
Great question, and I need everybody to challenge me because Shelley's like, that doesn't make any sense. She's being polite, but she's thinking that doesn't make any sense. Okay, if you have a contract that says you're providing a roof certification, okay, that's going to be 1 out of every 25 deals. I don't know. A small percentage of them are going to have it.
Right.
This is the trade-off, and I need some input from you guys. This is the trade-off. I got you, Rose. Give me a second. These are things that you may or may not have on an average transaction.
Period.
In most cases, you probably are not going to have these on every single deal. I've made a choice, and the choice is I can put them down at the bottom so that they're not bothering you, or I can put them up here.
And make you
Everything up
explain
here,
every line.
I either have to make required or if applicable, which means you have to do something about it.
Right.
And your checklist gets longer. Now, to Shelley's point, if you have a roof cert or a home inspection or a whatever,
Then it better be there.
it
Right.
still is required.
On that transaction.
Okay, now what I just said, and I think this is what Shelley picked up on, I don't necessarily care if you put it here. It would be nice. Okay? But if your contract says you have a roof cert, a home inspection, whatever it happens to be, at a minimum, you have to load it here.
Right.
In other words, it's in the file.
Right.
Okay? Just remember, everything in here is the file. Whether it's checked off on the checklist is kind of secondary. Department of Real Estate comes in and says, it looks like on this file that you required a roof certification. I say, yep, sure did. There it is. Now, Debbie may not have taken the time. And I have a feeling most of you are going to go ahead and load it on the checklist. Matter of fact, not only are most of you doing that, most of you are doing that. when I look at, I don't know if, have you guys done one of those? Loaded anything on that part of the checklist? Let me show you what, and hopefully I'll get lucky on one of
There's stuff on
one of the Delgado's deals. Let me show you what I'm seeing happen a lot. And this is again, this is pretty good. This is best practice, if you will. Which one? Gramercy? Okay. This is a deal that Danny and Teresa just closed up. Now their checklist may look a little different because I think this was an older checklist. Let's see if it works. Oh no. Nope, this is an older one. Have you done one, Debbie?
Gabriel's got some stuff
You
in it.
got some stuff, but you have the old checklist too.
No,
Do you have a new
Gabriel's the one
checklist?
from this weekend.
Oh, okay.
And I like that because you could just shove stuff in there and didn't have to put it in.
Exactly. Shove it in, and if it's required, it's required. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. This is Diane Arnos. Okay. Diane. Now again, Diane, you doing this is fine. I don't know. As a matter of fact, I would say that's probably best practice. You're telling yourself, and you're
Right.
telling me, NA on all these things. But what you've also said is you've loaded a copy of the MLS pending. Okay. I made a decision that I didn't want to force everybody to, and you've also uploaded a copy. Again, perfect example. I'm assuming this is the authorization to receive. I haven't looked at it.
It's the one that I use. It's
Okay,
not,
let's
it's
take a
the
look.
third party.
Okay, there it is. It's loaded and it's signed. Love it. Okay? Now, that's not on the checklist. Diane got the form, she stuffed it in the file, and she decided that she wanted to load it. So there it is. It's in the file, it's on the checklist, everybody happy. Now, if she decided not to just put it on the checklist, but kept it in the file under the document, said, I'm cool with that too. Okay? Perfectly cool with that. If it comes up later, I need it, there it is. Okay? So you can apply that pretty much to everything on here. Or again, you can do what Diane did. And this is probably what I would do if I was an agent working this. I probably would just NA the things that I don't
Want to look at
need.
it.
That way I know, okay, well maybe I want, again, another perfect example. Buyer's pre-qual proof of funds. Is that normally on a checklist? It is? Required? Okay. Okay, well, it's on our checklist now, but I'm not really requiring it. Now, if you guys tell me that, let's put that as a required item, I'll put it up to the top, and we'll make it a required
We're
item.
not gonna ever tell you to put anything on required.
Well, that's
So
kind
just
of,
roll
honestly,
over that.
that's really kind of the mindset I try
I
to
thought
keep.
so.
I try to keep it, let's just do what we really need, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put in. But again, if you have that and you need that, put it right here.
One thing that I think you should move up to required is the MLS closed.
Yeah, actually, I was just looking at that. That's
Yes.
And the reason that I always had that on the checklist and really wanted that is because I always checked to make sure that it was closed out properly and
Yep.
our office got proper credit.
Yep.
Because you use those for market share reports.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. And frankly, the same thing with the pending. We decided for some reason to put these down here, and I concur. We need to pop them up. We need to move them up into the required side. Rose, you've been waiting patiently. What'd you have?
I was thinking about what Shelley said about the homework, the inspection report. And a lot, there were great properties, and I know that lenders require a inspection report regardless whether the buyer wanted it or not.
So you would like that removed or moved up to the required side?
I feel that it should, right, Shelley?
I think it's a good prompt. I think if you leave it down at the bottom, and the same thing with the septic cert, those things are really important. If you've got them done and you don't add them to your file, and then later you get a problem, what's it gonna be with? Usually the home inspection, the septic report, right? So,
Okay, well
it's
just,
up to you. I don't.
well, we can move it up, but let me get some feedback from you. So let's use this file and let's use this example. Let's say we move it up to, we move it up here. And we put in this section, home inspection, septic cert, whatever it happens to be. Okay, whatever items we feel are important. I'm assuming, and tell me what you think, that you would like those items to be if applicable.
Yes.
Inspection like you have any other inspections, and you have septic and, you know, et cetera, you can actually just make one with all inspections.
Well, that's kind of what we did at the bottom. The bottom kind of accomplishes the same thing.
Right,
It's got all of the
exactly.
inspections listed. The main, really guys, it's just really a function of where you want to see it on the checklist. If you like to see a red or a blue or a light blue box next to the item, I mean, literally it takes 20 seconds for me to take that item and move it up.
No, it's good where it is.
Leave it.
You prefer to have it,
It's good where it is.
now it's still there though. To Rose's point, if you want to have it all listed, they're all down there. But again, you have to be disciplined enough
To read it all.
within the file to go down and say, I do have this, and I do have this, and I do have this, and I do have this.
It's there. Put it in there.
Why not just scan it, get it in there?
Well, so far, that's what most all of you are doing. I gotta tell you, I am so pleased by the way the agents who have been using it have adapted it. They're doing it exactly what you just said. Most of the agents that have been using this so far are doing exactly what you just said. Now, the proof is going to be, okay, now the file's closed, okay? And we're really auditing these files, and it says the seller was to provide a septic inspection. And then we go through the file, because we do this thoroughly, right? And then we go through and we say, oh, wait a minute. Contract called for a septic. Not only did they not put it on here, it's not anywhere in the documents tab, then we got a problem. So far, I'm seeing the exact opposite. What I'm seeing you guys do is, if you had a septic, I'm seeing it loaded right here, and I'm seeing it in the file, and it's labeled as a septic chart. So, well, let's do this. Let's kind of leave this as an open discussion.
Yeah, can we let this sit for a month
Yeah.
and
Well,
not change
this is
it?
what, most of you have not seen this checklist or used this checklist, which, by the way, if you're using the other checklist, other than the order and the way things are named, it's materially the same checklist. The main difference is
Just
where it's
figure it out.
grouped and how the order goes.
I have a question, I have two questions for you.
Yes.
One for the group, those of you that have been using SkySlope, do you find it easier to scan your whole file in and then split it?
Yep.
Or do you find
Yes.
it easier,
Yep.
is it easier that way than to scan
Yes.
individually?
Yep.
I've seen
Yes.
other
Yep.
people scan them individually.
All of it.
Oh boy, individual shoot them.
You like splitting it?
No,
Yeah.
I
No.
like loading
Scan
it
it
all
all
in
in
there
one
and
and
then
then
split it.
Bulk
What
file.
do you like?
Bulk file.
Both ways work for me.
I like
When the other agent emails me all of her disclosures,
Yeah, you could-
I'm simply forwarding
That
that
could be
email
done
to
too.
the SkySlope
Oh, that's
email and then
That's a
split
good
it.
one too.
But if they send it to me individually, I can load it.
Well,
up
of
and
course.
do it.
Yeah.
Because you're getting stuff all along that does,
You just
that's
upload
not
it
part
as
of
you
it.
go.
I think you guys are going to find you're going to do both. It just depends on how you
Yeah,
get it.
depending.
If you get a chunk of it, you get a PDF from the buyer's agent with everything signed and it's 60 pages long, you're going to load it and you're going to split it.
I got
If
one
you get
that
the random
would,
email with the home inspection, home
Exactly.
inspection report, you're going to load that in, and it's going to be the home inspection report.
I had one this weekend that wouldn't split.
Try. Everybody try
couple
Google Chrome
times.
and see if that solves your problem.
My other question is, with some of the newer required documents, like the MCA, that was not required in our checklist before. So I've got a couple of transactions that are closing within the next couple of days. Is it okay if they're not in there?
I've been pretty forgiving. I don't know, has anybody, okay, who's been getting my emails that say, hey, the checklist has been updated? Okay, good.
You're good.
Everybody, I did probably 10 files last night. Everybody should have got an email. It basically, if you don't know what we're talking about, well, let me show you what we're talking about. I've been pretty forgiving, to be honest with you. There's a couple things I probably should have kicked back, and I haven't. Okay, this is what Anna, or frankly, right now Anna's not doing it, but this is how the files work. These agents, and this all happened from 10 o'clock last night to this morning, because there was nothing in here last night. All of these files, if you had something you loaded yesterday, I had basically approved it. Let's take, Debbie had a file in here somewhere. Where'd you go, Debbie? I thought you had a file. Oh, you know, the one I was going to use as an example was mine. Let's use somebody, oh, Diane has something in here. Let's pick on Diane. So,
Great, you'll pay later.
let's see, we're going to upload, she has 7 documents that are pending. It's
And I
gone to
also
Anna.
noticed I missed some stuff and I don't know why.
Okay, well,
It's
this is a
gotta
good
be in there
example.
or
Okay,
something.
Diane has said, again, perfect example, that for whatever reason, no WPA. They didn't want it, it's out of the contract, we don't want it.
Right.
Now, I could go back and look at the contract and see whether she's lying to me and really supervise, but I'm gonna trust Diane and say, okay, she said it wasn't required, so on the admin side, I'm clicking not required, it's gonna change it to if applicable, you're done. You don't have to worry about it ever again. No reason for you to ever touch it. She's uploaded a affidavit of non-foreign status. There's that dreaded social security number we're so worried about.
Now shown to be Tyra Office.
Thank you very much.
And there's a seller's
Please
signature,
sign
there's a
this
buyer's
form.
signature, and there's a buyer's signature, their initial, and there's, okay, so I have looked at that, I deem that good.
That would be the only thing
I accept
we would
it.
accept.
It now turns
That's
green, and, well, let me go back up. It now turns green, which is what you guys want. You want all these things either to be green or light blue. If you're green or light blue, you're happy. I'm not gonna go through the rest of these, but I would make this, now again, Diane did it exactly what we talked about. She went ahead and filled out the form, so the QS isn't needed. She did the form. So we're gonna make that unapplicable. We go down, we do everything. When we're done, this is what generates the emails to you guys.
So now
I
you're
come
gonna
up here and I click update agent. And it will basically send Diane an email, and it says you have successfully updated agent, which means you all got, who got emails from you last night between 6 and 10 o'clock?
I don't know yet.
I was looking at your files, I approved them. You now get an email and it sends you a snapshot of this checklist. And you can very quickly take a look at it and you can say, oh, did I reject anything on yours, Diane?
I don't know.
Are you sure? Frankly, what you probably are going to be looking for is, there's nothing rejected.
No, there's,
But yeah, it's
I've
purple.
had a
It would
couple.
say basically, what does it say, incomplete?
You're missing an, yeah, incomplete, and
Yeah,
you're missing
it
an
would say
initial.
incomplete and it's purple, and then it'd be a note for me that says you loaded the wrong form. Or you're missing
Yeah, we had one
something.
of those.
So, you guys take a look at those emails, and then hopefully that's going to help
Corrupted
you manage
file.
your file, and you're going to know, well, number one, you're going to know a couple things. Someone's paying attention,
Yeah,
okay? Your broker actually is reviewing these documents. Hopefully you're going to get some feedback that says, oops, my broker said I made a mistake. Or you're going to get a bunch of green boxes that say completed, and you're going to say, wow, the only thing I'm missing right now is I had one. And I'm ready to rock and roll, close this deal up. The biggest challenge I've seen so far, to be honest with you, are not SkySlope problems. Is you guys don't know how to use the scanner. So,
that
we don't
corrupted
need-
file?
not that we don't need some SkySlope training, what we really need is to teach everybody how to use the scanner. File sizes are huge. Files are sideways.
Yeah, pretty much. I got
Files
that.
are whatever. Legal pages are chopped off. Which is why Teresa and I are on a mission. No legal pages in the form.
No,
Matter of fact, Summer, if Summer gives you guys escrow instructions,
good,
now they're all going to be 8.5 by 11.
thank you.
No more legal size escrow instructions for us because they're a pain in the butt to file and scan. So there was a question in there somewhere. I don't know if I answered it.
Where's the 81?
Oh, thank you. Okay, on the listing side of the transaction, who has an open listing that they've opened in the last week
Oh, on SkySlope?
on SkySlope?
No, I haven't done any more listings.
And if it might. Let's see here. Anybody know that? Oh, I think Steven, you did yours within the last week, didn't you, Steven? Now let's see. Oops. No, that might do it. Ah, perfect. Okay. This is the listing checklist. Okay. If you guys opened the listing a week or two ago, the checklist was what? It was huge. It had everything on it. I've changed that. You now have an open listing. There's 7 items on the list. 5 of the 7 are required. Okay? You got to have a listing agreement and the seller's advisory. We put those together. We want an agency, or Shelley's answered her question. Seller's agency disclosure on the listing side. We want a copy of the MLS printout active required. Is that important? Is it gonna save your butt later on from some agent saying you didn't do this and all the rest of that?
Yeah, dates.
Sellers, I gave Stephen a pass on this because this actually was already closed. But we are requiring a seller's net sheet, as you should. Even if it's a short sale, I would like something that says seller's net 0. Even if it's just a net sheet that's got a big 0 down there and they're going to sign, they're getting nothing.
It's not a zero, it's like a negative.
A negative.
150.
Okay, so we want a net sheet, and we want, this is the disclosure to represent more than one buyer. Now again, most people think about that when it comes to working with buyers. I'm working with a bunch of buyers, they both want the same kind of house. Is there a conflict? I've got an investor, they both want Marina Valley, what do I do? This is just as important working with sellers. Anybody farming? Anybody have a listing on like 4 houses down from the house that they already have listed? When I was farming a lot, working with real sellers, I got to tell you, I take a listing on my farm, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,810 square feet in Sunny Ranch, and then 3 weeks later I take a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,810 square feet in Sunny Ranch, same house, right around the block. Do sometimes your sellers get a little antsy about that? Oh, wait a minute. Well, you took my listing first, that means you're going to sell mine first, right? Okay. You better get your disclosure to represent more than one buyer or seller. So, those are the only 5 that are required. These down here I threw at the bottom, is it a lead writer referral? And if it is, all I want you to do is just put a note in here that says yes. Okay, that's it. Is there an outside referral? Have I agreed to pay 20% to an agent in Nevada? And then in that case, yes, and then upload the referral agreement for the referring agent. So on the listing side of the transaction, that's all you need. Does that mean you are not supposed to get your TDS and all the rest of those inspections when you take the listing? That is not what that means. You're still going to go and get all of those disclosures that you normally would get. You're going to load them into the document side because they only have whose signature on them?
Sellers.
They only have the seller's signature on them. All right? Then when you turn this property into a sale, what you going to do? Then you're going to send them out, and then the other checklist is going to populate, and all of those forms you have sitting. I don't know if Stephen has anything in here. This is closed, right? Where do you go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything in here, Stephen? Oh, you're not even doing this, are you? Stephen has someone admin for him. He doesn't even know what we're talking about here. But if you had an ML, if you had a TDS, or if you had an Avid, or if you had a water heater smoke detector, load them all in there. Wait for it to go into escrow. And once it goes into escrow, then you're going to send them out to the buyer's agent, and you're going to put them on the checklist. The reason we took them off the checklist, if we put them on the checklist, your checklist would now be doubled. Because you now have a seller signed TDS and then a fully executed TDS, and literally your checklist would be twice as big as it is now. So that's the only thing required on the listing section. One thing that's important, and then I'm going to stop because we are.
How do you change it over to a sale?
Great question. This is closed, right, Stephen? Yeah. How do you do that? Listing. It's somewhere on one of these lists. Is it on the checklist?
Lance,
Yes.
like on 16th, where the same kind of thing, you enter it as a listing.
Yep.
And then what I did, because now, we sold it, is I started create transaction and I typed in the address, and then that's when it prompts you and says,
Yep.
there's already a file. Do you want to use this?
Yep. Well, let me answer the question. Yep, you're 100% correct.
Oh.
Okay, let's pretend I'm Stephen now. What is this, Withers? Now again, I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff on mine, but let's pretend I'm Stephen. And
But there should be a way to just switch it over without starting.
And this is what you do. What you're going to do, now again, I have a whole bunch of listings on here because I'm the admin and I get to see all the listings on here. If this was you, you would only have your 25 listings on here. You highlight the one that you want to put under contract.
Right.
In this case, it's Stevens Withers. And then you go up to accepted contract. See the button up top? You click accepted contract. And you click that. It is then going to take you to the transaction side, and it's going to prompt you to fill in that information. And then it's going to populate the checklist for all the disclosures and all the stuff in the buyer check. Now, if you're not representing the seller, you don't need that step. You're just going to go create a new transaction. Because then you're not representing the seller. We don't ever get copies of the listing agreement from the other agent, right? We don't need that. We don't get copies of their seller's net sheet. We don't get that. So that's how you create a transaction. You just highlight it and then you go accept a contract.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a lot longer than I thought. I got to tell you, and I don't want to skew the room, even though I do want to skew the room. with the exception of this morning, Diane came in and gave me some critical feedback. I really have had nobody come and tell me they hate this program. But a
Just
couple
this
people say,
weekend.
let's make a couple tweaks here, kind of like what we did today. Let's add some things, let's tweak a couple things. Generally, it's been the bomb. So this is the deal for you. If you're not using it right now, this is going to be what's going to happen. The next time you turn in a closed file, and you give it to Anna, you give her the paper file, Anna's going to say, thank you very much.
Goodbye.
We appreciate it. You're going to hand you your check. Everything's going to be fine. And then you're going to get an email from Anna that says, next time, I'm not going to accept the paper file from you. Okay? So if you've got paper files now and you don't want to load them all into SkySoap, because that's going to be, now having said that, if you've got 7 open escrows and they're all going to close in the next couple weeks, and you don't want to go through this and go back and recreate the 7, that's fine. Just let us know, hey, I got 6 more that are going to close. But anything new that you're opening up from this point forward, we want you to use SkySoap. If you don't, one of 2 things will happen. If we love you and we just know that you're technically challenged, we're going to charge you $100 for every file that you don't use in SkySoap. If we don't love you, we're going to hand you your license back and say, you got to use this. And as much as I think it's really good for you guys, this is, I'm going to be blunt, this is keeping me square with DRE. Because we have been less than square with our supervision and our file review. So I want to sleep good when I get that letter from DRE, which is going to come, could come today since I mentioned it. You always get audited. When that letter comes, whether it's today or 3 years from now, I'll be able to say, ah, cool, when do you want to come? Come on down, baby. And this is going to help me sleep good. Okay.
When you email out of that program, is it emailing out through Outlook or Windows Live, whatever you call it?
When you email out, it actually emails out from SkySoap.
Okay, so we have to worry about having Outlook set up.
No, you just email out, you select. This kind of gets, what Shelley was commenting a couple days ago about the information that's required when you set up a file. One of those things that's required, for example, would be your seller's email, the other agent's email, and that sort of stuff. That's one of those reasons it's required, because it assumes that you're going to probably be sending or receiving emails through SkySoap. Excuse me, that you're going to be sending emails through SkySoap. If you set up your seller's email or the buyer's agent's email, it's very easy. Email John Smith, TDS, done. So, but you don't need Outlook.
Cool.
Okay, the only other thing let me go
You're not
back.
gonna take my seller's email address or my buyer's email address and put it on a list somewhere.
It's actually, the only people who have, we have access to it as I guess as the admins or the brokers, but that is your, that's your information. No, we're not gonna do anything. Okay, so there was one other thing, I wanted to thank everybody for frankly embracing Summer. And I know the reason you're embracing her because she is the bomb. I mean, she rocks. But I gotta tell you, yeah, you do. So anyway, I want to thank everybody who's using her. If you're not using her, a few months ago, I almost kind of felt bad, like maybe this was a commercial and I'm trying to get you to use Summer because it's beneficial to me, which it is. But I'm telling you now, if you're not using her, you're missing out. This gal's good, right? I mean, she's as good as I've seen. So, and I've seen a lot of good escrow officers. So, I'm going to change my sales pitch. Give her a shot. You're going to be impressed. She is good. So, okay. And the only other thing, we haven't done this in a couple of months. So, for those of you that are wondering, are we ever going to do the property management training again? The answer is yes. And we're going to do it in about 10 minutes. So if you want to kill another hour, we'll take a break and we'll meet in the conference room and we're going to go over some property management stuff. I know it's short notice, but anybody plan on attending? I'll do it. Okay, I'm going to say if there's one of you, I'll do it. I see 2 hands. Okay, so we're going to do property management training here in about 10 minutes. And last but not least, if you are interested in shooting any videos, from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock, come on into the conference room and we'll shoot some videos. So, who wants to do a video? That's what I thought. So,
Yeah, can I do a video?
you can.
All right.
Okay,
On your birthday? It's your birthday.
Anything else? Are we good?
One comment.
Jim?
First I heard of Google Chrome was a couple days ago when Danny was doing a BPO.
Okay.
And he inputted it 3 or 4 times and it wasn't taken, and called the help guy from whatever system he was trying to use. They said, oh, well, you're using Google Chrome, it won't work.
It
Right.
won't work in Google Chrome.
Yeah, so they told him to go back and use Internet Explorer for that.
Well,
That's how it is with a lot of the bank sites. I mean, like, RO Experts doesn't use Chrome, Zip Logic isn't, like, WinForms isn't supported by Chrome. MLS.
well, keep in mind, you can have both. You don't have to have, you know, it's not like you're picking one
Whatever
over the other.
works or doesn't.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can have an Internet
remembers
Explorer
too many things,
browser
passwords
and a
and stuff.
Firefox browser and
That's why they
a
don't.
Chrome browser. So,
Safari, you can
Got it.
and yeah, it's not an and or, it's not either or. You can have, I don't know, a tech guy. Right.
Yeah, Brian says,
Right.
first try your.
And I think MLS.
Try a different computer.
MLS is like Internet Explorer better, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can open both.
Oh, you use MLS and Chrome?
WinForms.
Yes.
WinForms likes Internet Explorer better?
Yeah.
Yes,
You can have both. You can have multiple browsers on the same.
depending on the application.
I mean, we can have both.
You can have both.
We can
We're
have
gonna try this again.
You can
Actually, all
make
three.
it.
You can have Firefox
You
too.
can have Safari on there as well. Yeah.
Well, probably could have Safari.
We can have 3, I would say.
Everybody-
Probably
Mr.
4.
Miller.
So you want to screw that up any further?
Great question. This is the deal. We're going to be doing training, and we're going to do training every week. John, if you didn't hear his question asked about digital signatures, the short answer is no. I have not been trained on it, but it is available. And when we do our training next week, we will do live training on how to use the digital signature feature in SkySoap.
Perfect.
Okay. From what I'm told, who's played around with it? Yeah, oh, yeah. From what I've told, it's very, very easy. And that's another thing I've noticed on the files that people are loading. I am really surprised how many people are loading digitally signed contracts. I mean, it's probably 25–30%, which I wasn't expecting. I was still expecting a lot of what's in. Okay, we're way over, so. Okay, gang, go sell something. All right.
Christmas party. Is there a committee for the Christmas party this year?
Oh, thank you. Hey, this is what we're doing. I'm going to put out an announcement probably no later than next week on what we're doing for the Christmas party. To be honest, we had talked previously about just doing something small for the Christmas party, and then in January or February, kind of doing the bigger awards deal. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I've had some negative feedback about doing the Christmas party and the awards thing together. I like it that way. We've done it that way forever. And it also creates some challenges when I'm actually doing the awards, because it's weird. You know, we do like from December 1 through the end of the month because of the way the year follows. So anyway, I was going to just do something small for the Christmas party and then do a bigger party in January, February. Actually, I don't think I'm going to do that now. I think we're going to nail something down here this week, and we will set a date for December, and we're going to do a Christmas party. So I know that's really late notice, but we'll have something out to you guys within the next week. I've got 2 things. Number 1, the people on the boat. You guys love the boat, hate the boat? Love it. Raise your hand if you love it. The rest of you hate it or if you care less. Okay. Well, apparently the economy's still a little tough down in Newport Beach, because they just sent me an email that says, "Please come." And we'll give you a good deal, which is pretty funny because we were booking those boats like back in August, and we were getting crappy dates to choose from. Apparently they got some pretty good dates like available like today. So, but the boat's always a problem too though, because number 1, you have to be there at a certain time. You can't leave early. So this is what I thought. Give me kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down on this. I didn't even know this was available. Who's been over to the March Field Museum where they got all the airplanes inside the hangar? Okay, they actually do parties there. You basically can do an event, kind of like when we did the museum in Riverside, but they took all the art off the walls. This week they do the party in the hangars, but they leave the planes in there, all the restored planes and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So I'm actually, I haven't even talked to Anna about it. Anna's going to call them today, and we're going to probably, unless you guys think that's a terrible idea, we're probably going to set a date. We're going to do it at the March Airfield Museum inside the hangar with all the antique planes. And we're going to do it sometime in December. Good idea? Bad idea?
Yeah.
You can do it here in the office.
Pardon me? True.
You can do it here in the office.
Pardon me?
Do it right here in the office.
We can do it here?
Yeah.
Do a gift exchange? Secret Santas? Okay, well, you guys seem overwhelmed with excitement.
Yeah,
with
really.
the Airbnb.
Let's do it as little afters.
Let it go.
Anyway, Anna's gonna work on it. If you love it or hate it, see Anna. We're gonna put her in charge.
Hey.
Okay, anything else?
Don't get like
Bye-bye.
Nothing? All right, let's get, I'm surprised you guys are still here.
Just do it.
All right, go to work.